Hi everybody, my name is Dennis. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a computer build, and I'll start off with showing you the parts. Well, in my last video I showed you how to install this cooler, which, as you can see here, is the Gamex 400. Alright, it has all kinds of different fittings, and we'll install a EVGA 600 watt power supply, and to activate the USB 3.0 ports, because this motherboard has support for 3.0, but it does not have it with the header on the motherboard. We'll use that to activate it with a Molex connector and your standard plug-in from the case. The case we're going to be using is the half 912. I'll give you a little bit of a look at it. Now, this is a case that was previously being used. So what's going to happen is I'm going to start this build. I'll put the motherboard and CPU in. If you're interested in seeing the motherboard and CPU, how it was installed, you can check the video at the end. There's a link to that. Okay, so one of the things I usually do is anytime I use a case, I always keep all the extra parts. I label the box for just this situation when I'm going to reuse the case, because I did a system build, put the other system into a whole new case. So now this one has the half 912 case with all the extra standoffs, and inside the box here you've got everything extra I may need. Now, one of the things I want to show you, when you look inside this case, let me get some more light in here, you'll notice that there's 3 standoffs there, 3 in the middle. Okay, I'm talking these things here. Okay, and this one here. But on this side, we're missing 3 of the standoffs. So what we're going to have to do, because this is an ATX motherboard, we're going to have to install those. So we go to our little handy dandy bag inside here, and you can see the standoffs. It's the little shiny ones here. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and put those in, and then I'll show you. Okay, so now you can see the 3 extra standoffs. One here, there, and here. Now, with the extra stuff I had, you can see this. That is so you can put it over top, just like so. Alright. Okay, so you just take a screwdriver, and then you can just tighten that. Don't over tighten it, because then you'll strip it, and then you're going to have problems. So once that's on there good and tight, you can take that off. Move on to the next one. Tighten that again. And the last one, then just tighten it. Okay. Now I'm going to go and check each one of them, all the other ones as well, just to make sure that they're all nice and tight. Okay, so because I've used this case before, I've already got a CD in here. It's already connected with a SATA cable, and the other end's just tucked in here. I'll show you how to connect that afterward. Now, the next thing we're going to do is a drive fit of the motherboard. So let me just get the motherboard and we'll put it in. We just want to make sure that all these holes that are here fit the same spots as that are on the motherboard. So I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so when you put your motherboard in, just gently ease it in. All I'm doing is making sure that I line these up. See these holes? And make sure they all line up properly. In this hole, you should be able to see this screw. It's pretty hard to see that with this camera, but you can kind of see it with this one a little bit better. And I have to adjust it just a little bit. And see how that's offset just a little bit? See that little gold part underneath? So when I actually fit this board in, I'll have to make sure I readjust it just a little bit. Alright, but we'll do that once we have the motherboard backplate. We'll have to put that in first. Okay, so this is your motherboard backplate. Now, when you put this in the system, you always want to have these 2 openings because usually one's going to be your keyboard and your mouse. Okay, so you're going to orient that. Let me just try and get this in here so that it's going up like that, and you're going to push that into the case. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So once you've got it in place, that's what it looks like on your case. And I'll show you that from the other angle. And from the back of your case, that's what it'll look like. So once your motherboard is put in place, everything will come out through those little openings. So one thing I want to point out is if you can see this hole right here, that is what you want to find in a lot of cases when you buy them. Because this hole will allow you to run your cable for your 8-pin power supply on your motherboard up through that. It won't interfere with your motherboard at all, and it'll give you a cleaner cable management in the back. So now that we've got all our standoffs all put in place, I'm going to go and put the motherboard in. Okay, so once you've got the motherboard in here, you're going to line it up with those. You're going to line it up with those holes. See how they nicely just fit all in there? So if that's in there right, all your holes for your motherboard should all line up. Okay, see that one there? See how nicely that shows? So usually what happens, you have to give a little push just on this side. Okay, I'm trying to get my hand out of the way here. And you just got to move it a little bit. Once those are all lined up, you can go ahead and secure it to the frame of the case. Okay, so now you should be able to see everywhere on your case. Now that one is black, so you can't see that, but you can see this one. And they will all, when they're fastened, see, you can see all the gold now. Now it's hard to see the one where the cooler is for your, it's kind of hard to see that one too. Now sometimes what you have to do, now I do this just a little bit, you just have to hold, just push just a little bit to get your first screw in. And you don't have to put a lot of pressure, just push on it just a tiny little bit. And then when you put your screws in, you're good to go. So here's just a little trick for you. Take one of your extra standoffs and take your screw, screw them in. If they go in nice and tight, then you know you have the right screw. So do that before you go and put it into your motherboard. That way you won't have any problems making sure your screw's going in the right way. Alright, so I'm just going to do this real quick. Okay, make sure that you don't over tighten these. Just once it starts to get a little bit tight, you can go just a squeeze more and then stop. Because again, if you over tighten those, once it's on, you'll strip it and then you're going to have problems. Okay, so I've got that one on. I've got this one here by the cooler on. You can see that right here. And then I'm going to do this one. And then there's 3 more down the board, which I've done the one on the right hand side here. And I'll do this one, that one there, this one here, that one where you really can't see it very well, and then finally this one here. Okay, so something I want to point out to you that happens to me not very often, but occasionally it does happen. If you notice this screw right here, okay, try and get the light on it. It's completely different size than all the rest of them. What happens, I find every now and then, and it's pretty rare, but it does happen, you will get a standoff. Now these are the ones that are actually drilled into the case itself, where they've threaded it just a little bit bigger than your other screws. So this screw is just a normal screw that you would actually could fasten in a power supply, or you could fasten some other components in your case. It's just a slightly bigger thread. It sits flush against the motherboard, which is the main thing, and I just put that in, that fastens it down, it's tight, and that way you won't have any missing holes, which you really don't want. I've never encountered a problem with doing this. I've done it twice in the past, and it's worked perfect. So one of the things that happens when you're using a case that's been used before is you'll notice all these cutouts here. Okay, so this one had 2 graphics cards in it before. It's only going to have 1. So you need a way to basically see all those up. So you see these little plates here? Some of the manufacturers are really nice, and they give you some extras of these in your case. Or if you've taken them out of the case, you'll have the extras, and you can just put them back in. So I'll show you what that is. In our case here, these are the only 2 slots that we're going to fill, because your graphics card is going to go here, and this one is going to be for your, this here, for your 4-port super speed USB 3.0 PCIe host card connector. So in your case, here's the extra pieces that we had, and those are going to be used to fill. Okay, so here's your screw. That's the same one we used for the putting it on the motherboard. The thread is almost identical to the other one. It's just a little bit wider. So one of the things I want you to notice is this is the one we're putting in. And notice on the bottom there's that little gap. So when you put this on here, sorry, I'm trying to get down here. You want to make sure that's sitting inside here. Okay, and that will set flush. And of course your screw will just go in the top. So the next thing we're going to do is install our power supply. When we install it, it's going to go right here. You can see that little lip. It's going to go through the back here, and we'll fasten it in place. So you got this little twist tie you want to take off, and then you'll have all your cables. I'm going to set that down so you can see it. And if you look at it, you'll have your, sorry, and this is a little bit difficult to do. So the big thick one here is going to be your 24-pin power supply, unless of course you happen to have a 20-pin power supply because it's older. Alright, so there's really only one way for this to go on. Alright, so this will go together for your 24-pin, or if it's 20-pin, it'd be like that. As we put it together, we'll see. So with your power supply in place, one thing you'll notice is this is nice and gives you all your details, all the specs for your power supply. You want your power supply face down, okay? Now some cases will be different, okay? So that's the top of it. And on the bottom, you'll notice there's a filter. This filter comes out and you can wash it. And your fan is facing this way to the bottom of the case. So once your power supply is in, and you got it facing the right direction, now you can check your case manufacturer to find out which way it's going to go. But you can see you got your screw hole here. The other one's there. And again, you're going to have to line these up when you put your screws in. Okay, so here and there. Alright? So you fasten that in with your 4 screws. Now, during that time, I've got my cables here just kind of leaned over the edge of it so that they're out of the way and they're not interfering with the motherboard. Okay, so once everything's in, you'll be able to see your 4 screws in your power supply. And your power supply will come with those 4 screws. Now, leave your switch in the off position. Okay, so putting the case back on upright with the back of the case off, you can kind of see how everything is turning out. So the next thing to do is feed all these long cables here through the back. I'm going to feed them all through the back here. I'm going to clean these cables here out of the way. And then next thing I'm going to do is bring the power supply up. See that right there? I'm going to focus in. That is your 8-pin power supply. And that's going to go through that hole I mentioned earlier. And once I've got that, and then I'm going to plug in my 24-pin power supply. Okay, now that we got our cables through the back, I've just got them laid down through here as you can see them. And the cables for connecting all the pins and everything are the back here. So basically I'm going to take this cable here. I've fed it up through the back. And we're going to plug it into the 24-pin on the other side. Okay, so if you can see this little catch here, that goes on to the the 24-pin here. So when the motherboard is out of the case, but you can better see this. So I took it out. Okay, so there's the clip. So when you put your 24-pin power supply and you're connected, these 2 connectors have to be on the same side, and the one will clip down below this one, and you'll hear it click in place. So here we go. I'll show you that. So you want to push this in. And just want to make sure it's in there good and secure. Now, to check it, you want to check that pin. You can kind of just feel it with your finger, or you can look. And the one should be overlapping the other one. So I'm going to check that. I like to be a little thorough here. So now it's kind of hard to show you that, but so now you can see the cable management, at least, how it's nice and just comes up over the top and it goes into your 24-pin power, and that gives your cable management a nicer look. So the next cable you want to get is this one here. On it you can see where it says CPU. So that's where I was talking about on the back of your case. There's a slot, and we're just going to feed it up in. Just going to feed it up in through here, okay? And we'll feed it right in. So here you can see your 8-pin. So now we're going to take this cable. Alright, now it's only going to go in one way, and you see it's got the clip here as well. And this one you can see it a little better, so you can see the clip right here. So when you put these together, these clips will go in. Sorry, I'm just going to make sure I can see that properly. They'll go in here, and the two of them will clip together. Okay, so now you can see where I plugged it in. Now it will only go one way. And it's clipped in. The little black clip is on the blue clip. And once those are in, they're firmly in place. Now if you want to test it, you can always just go here, pull on your cable a little bit, okay? It shouldn't come out. If it comes out, it's not in right. Okay, so you just give it a little snug. But if it's on right, those clips are holding each other together and it won't move. So the next thing we're going to move on to is our pins here. These will connect directly to your motherboard and your audio. So we're going to move those through the bottommost port opening here. So this is how it goes on one side. PLED, positive and negative. You can see your black wires. Now one's blue, one's white. They don't always have to be the same color. In fact, I really haven't paid attention to it in the past, but as long as the positive goes to the positive and the negative goes to the negative, that's all that matters. The speaker, we really, very often you will not have a speaker thing to connect. So you don't have to put anything on there. So moving to the other side, that's where your hard drive, your power, oh, let me get that in there. Your hard drive, power, and your reset switches for your case are going to go. Okay, so they just slide on. I can probably do it with my one finger, as a matter of fact. Just push it on. Okay, so they're in there nice and tight. So now we're going to do our power and we're going to do our reset switch. Okay, so here you can see that they're all connected. Now, when you look at the end here, okay, you can see all those pins. Now, when you align that with your pins on your motherboard, okay, so right there, you want to make sure they line up the same way. All right, and then you can just slide it right on. Now, because I've done this before, I'm just going to pause this video. I'm going to put them on without the adapter so I can use it in the future for maybe just like this as an example to show you how it goes on. Okay, so once everything's on, now I didn't use that little clip. You can see how it goes on the motherboard. Now you can't see all of them. You'll see the positive and negative, all that kind of stuff. And that's how it's going to go on the case. On the motherboard, sorry. And on this side, you've got your HD audio cable. And that's going to go on those pins right there in the corner. So when you look at the HD audio cable, you'll notice there's a blank spot there. So as long as you line it up exactly the same as it is on the one at the bottom, it'll go on no problem. But just make sure it's in there snug. So once you've got your audio cable in there nice and, you're pretty much done for your connections. So now you have to connect your motherboard and your hard drive and all those together. So you want to plug in your SATA cables. And I'll show you how we do that as we go along. Now the reason that we do this, and we plug in all our wires, is you see how clean that is right now? If you were to put in your graphics card and anything else that you were going to put in there first, putting those cables in afterward becomes very difficult because now you not only can't see, you can't really get your hands in there to do it. Okay, so one of the things I mentioned was that 4-pin connector for a speaker. Now this is one of the little speakers that happens to come with this case. So I will go ahead and install it, and it just helps when you're doing the beep codes to diagnose what's going wrong. Because once you get used to the codes, you can better understand what's going on in your system. So if you look at this from this point of view, okay, so you can see those 4 pins. You can just put it on this little slot that's left here. See those 4 pins? And it'll go right on there. Okay, so here's the speaker when it's connected. Okay, so I'm a little bit of a fanatic almost when it comes to cable management. So what I did is I just took our cables, wrapped them down through this little opening here. Now this comes off with 2 screws on both sides. I actually have been known to stick some cables in there just to hide them out of the way. You don't have to, but if you choose to do this, make sure you leave enough slack in here so you're not going to pull these cables off. Because if you pull them off, well, now you're going to have to cut everything off and redo it again. So you can just double check them. Make sure everything is still in there tight, that you got a bit of slack. Because you want some slack, otherwise it will pull off. So you got your HD cable. Now this one I didn't show you, but this is just a USB plug. It plugs in. You've got one here, here, and there's several other ones on the motherboard. So something I haven't done yet is put the hard drive in. Now, one of the things I want to show you, if you look on the side here, you got 3 holes, okay? These 3. And then we have these things. Now in this particular case, and they go on like this. See, you line them up, and just go like that, and then they're in place. And we do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so once you've got them on both sides, they just slide in here, and you just basically push, and you hear that click in place. So now they're in there nice and good. It's not going to move. And our connector will be on the other side. Right there you can see the connector for the fan on this case. Now that's going to run one single fan. Now you can buy more fans for this case if you want to add those. And that's simply going to go onto your motherboard. It's a 3-pin. And all you have to do is look on your motherboard and find slots like this. There. Now you'll see on it, that one says channel fan 3. So that means there's a 1 and a 2. And there might even be a 4 on here. I haven't looked yet. Yes, there is a 4. And you can plug it into any one of those. So you want to plug it into the one that's going to give you the best look for your cable management. So I plugged the fan in there. That's the fan for the front of the case. And it just looks better there in my opinion. So again, pure aesthetics. You can plug it in any spot in the motherboard that allows you to plug in a channel fan. So in order to make better use of our cables, what I did is I actually moved the hard drive up a little bit. That way, when I'm using the SATA cables, alright, which will plug into the hard drive and the DVD drive, I can fit them both into the same region, and it'll be more effective because one will go in here and the other one will go in the DVD up and through here. That way you only have to use one of these cables and you could save the other one should you want to add more things to the case. So we'll go ahead and do that. So one thing you'll notice is, see the L shape? So when you look on that, you're going to see the L shape, and then when you look on the back of your hard drive, you're going to see the same thing. Okay, so when you connect them, they only go on one way. You don't want to force it. And you're going to have the one on the far left is going to be for your power, and the one in the middle is going to be for your SATA cable. All right, the one on the right, we don't use it very much unless you want to use it for accessories or something. Okay, so one of the other things we have to do is the rear exhaust fan. We're going to install that onto the motherboard. We're going to install it where it says channel fan 2. And again, this is a 3-pin. And we're going to just plug it in there. And one of the little things I'm going to show you, I didn't show you on the other one, is just make sure that that little notch lines up with your, in here, I'll get my finger in here in the back, there's a little catch there. So you're going to want that in that direction with your pins, so when you plug it in. So I'll show you what that looks like here. Okay, so once you got it plugged in, you can see that little red spacer on the pin for the power, for the fan, for the rear exhaust fan. And you can see the little white clip. Now they all line up real nice. And one of the things I've been doing, and I haven't really been filming it, is I twist tie all these little things just to keep the cable management as nice as I can get it. And I've done the same thing with down here. You see a couple of the twist ties there, and another one there. And that's just to give it a better look. Now, we're going to connect up here the DVD drive. Okay, you can see that where the L goes down. And in order to do that, we have to use a SATA cable. So you can see on this end what it looks like, and on the other end. So that in there is the part that goes to the actual drive, and then the straight one will go into the SATA ports. So I'm going to see if I can get that on camera here. Okay, so you have to look at the shape the L is going in, and you just put it in there, and it should just clip in, just like that. And then when you come down, this cable here will go into this on the other side of here. Okay, so there it is, it's connected. Now I did it on the bottom so that I can do the next one on the top, and that'll free up the other two sets of SATA ports on the bottom for anything else that gets installed in the system in the future, and it'll make it a little bit easier for whoever does that. Okay, so again we're going to line up our SATA cable. Okay, you can see where the L is going. Then when you look on here, okay, so you can see it there. So when you see here, you can see the L, so you want to have that going in the same direction. And it will just, so that'll just go in there like that. Alright, then you're just going to feed this cable in through the back, and then you back into your motherboard. Okay, so now that we've got both of our SATA cables connected to the motherboard, of course one is connected up to the DVD drive and the other one is to the hard drive in the back. Everything we need for this system is connected. So now we move on to putting in our graphics card, and in this little small slot right there, I'm trying to put as much light on as I can. That's where the adapter to connect the USB 3.0 is going to go. So I'm going to put that in there, and I'll try and show you how to do this. So this is the connector that's going to go on your motherboard. It'll go in like this, and you can see that little small spacing there, which as I said is going to go on your case. It's going to go on this one right here. Okay, and of course make sure it sits in there and in here away from your motherboard. Sorry, my finger's taking it out of focus a little bit, but you'll see, I'll show you. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll do the graphics card. Oh, and one other thing I'll show you. If you look at the back of this, okay, so the one on the bottom is for your Molex connector, and the blue one is for your USB 3.0. It's your header that is on a lot of motherboards today, more modern motherboards. And of course, what goes into that from your case is this. And you can see on here, let me just show it to you. You got the little clips, so it will only go in one way. You see that, that will only go in here in the same direction, because you got that little clip, right? You see that? So that has to go in there. So if it doesn't go in easily, well, then you know it's not in the right way. And it will go in very easy. So let me go ahead and do that. I apologize for not showing you me actually inserting it. I just don't have a camera that can do that while I work at it at the same time. Okay, here you can see it installed in the case with, again, your connectors on this side. Okay, so before connecting that up, the next thing I'm going to put in there is this graphics card. As you can see, it's got the slots on the bottom here. Alright, and what you can do is, if you look inside your case, okay, your first one here is the one you want to connect it to, and it's got the same slot. So we're going to put that in there, fasten it to, and then I'll show you how we connect that. Notice on the card, so those are pcie connectors, which of course are from your power supply, and I'll show you how to connect those as well. Okay, so once installed, you can see your two components there, and we have to hook up that. But first I wanted to show you something else. I took the front panel off. Okay, I'm going to turn that, and this fan was really dusty from when it was on before. Now it has room to put another fan. So what's going on here is the airflow from before, it had what's called static pressure. So we're going to reverse one of the other fans and see if that can help to keep the system a little bit cleaner and not quite so much dust. Because I want to show you what the front cover looks like. So you can see that. You can see the dust that built up on there over time. So we're going to clean that out. This mesh here does come off, and you can wash it. And we're going to take the fan off too and clean that. Before plugging in the Molex connector, you want to look at the direction. See how it has kind of a roundish shape on the corners? And you get the 4 pins? So when you look at your connector over here, it has the same shape. So one of the things I did to make this go in easier is I actually removed the graphics card. That gave me more room to maneuver my hands in there without it causing me any problems. So I'll put the graphics card back in after, but there for now you can see that. And then the next thing you're going to do is plug in your USB 3.0 header. Once you've got it in there, you can use a twist tie, as I did right here, and just tie it off to kind of clean up your cables again, the cable management thing again. And now I'm just going to re-put the graphics card back in place. So the next thing you want to do is identify your PCIe power connectors. Okay, they'll actually say PCIe on them. Now this is one cable, and the way it's been split up, you've got 2 different ends. Alright. Now you can use both of these ends at the same time in your graphics card. And since we only need 6 pin, okay, so you get 6 here. This one here can just be tied off. So that's what I do, is tie it off first just to get it out of the way. And then we'll go to here and we'll install it in those 6 slots. One of the other things you want to do is look for this little clip. So on this little clip, there's going to be one on each one of these. And when you look on your graphics card, so on here you can see those 2 little clips on the bottom. So just like your power connectors, you want to have your clips going in the same direction as that clip. And that's how you'll know if you've got it oriented in the right way. Okay, so now we've got the PCIe connectors, as you can see. Now what I did is I just tucked these down. You can push them down, it doesn't hurt anything. And just kind of clean that up to get it out of your way. So at this point, as you can see, everything is pretty much done. So all that's left now is to put the covers on. I'm going to do a little bit of cable management on the back, and I'll quickly show you a picture of that after I'm done. And that's it. We'll do the next start, which it's just powering it up, make sure everything works, and then just the installation of your software. So while I'm doing my cable management, as you can see, it's quite a menagerie of cables going everywhere. These are tie downs. So your cable goes in this side, comes out on this side, as you can see with some of these ones. And you can secure it to the side of the case. And that'll just stop all these cables from moving. And it'll get it nice, and so you got that little bit of a lip to close it. So you have to kind of push these down as much as you can without damaging them, of course, so that you can close the back of the case, which of course you don't really need to open unless you're going to do more on it, in which case then you may have to undo some of the cable ties. But that'll get it nice and close in tight to the back of the case and give you better cable management in the long run. Okay, so our cable management is done. Everything is nicely tucked away, so it shouldn't interfere with closing the case. Yeah, I've used the tie downs where I needed to and just tidied it up just ever so much. So with that done, we'll put the cover back on, make sure it goes on okay. And if you want to see the installation of the software, everything happens, let me know. Okay, so that's everything I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put the back of the case on. We'll boot her up, make sure everything starts up. I'll show you the screen. And at least that way we'll know everything is ready to go. We'll do our software installation later. So one more thing I just wanted to point out. When you put your case on, you want to go along the edges and just feel along. If it all feels nice and smooth as you go along the whole thing, you know you got it done right. So here's one final look at our case. Back panel is back on. We'll put this one back on in a minute. But there was something that I noticed that I thought I would show you that comes with this case, and maybe it even comes with some other ones. If you notice right here where the SSD is, well, I didn't install an SSD in this particular system. But it had this little cage. So you can disengage it from here. I'm just going to take it out so you can see. Now I got to hold it in place because it doesn't stay together all the well. As you can see it though, you can fasten your SSD on the sides here, on both sides, and then your side rails, which are these ones, which you just use to put on the sides for your hard drive. Let me see if I can get that in here. And then that allows you to just mount it in like a normal hard drive. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention in case, because I've watched a lot of videos on the HAF 912 and not one of them actually showed what that was for. Alright, so we're going to put the panel back on. We're going to fire it up and we're going to, well, if everything went well, it should start up and allow us to do the software installation. So on the back of the case, the only thing I've got plugged in is a wireless keyboard, and I'm going to plug in the video card and the power supply. The power supply being last, and always make sure that the power supply is the last thing you do, and have it turned off until you decide you need to power it on to do the rest of your installation. Okay, so our system is powered itself on. As you can see with the nice blue LED, which kind of looks pretty cool, I think. Both fans are running. Fan inside should be running. You can see it here. I can't really see it. Trust me, it's running. I can feel it. So when we boot it up, this is what you're going to see when you first boot up. Okay, let me get that light out of here. Okay, it says reboot and select proper boot device or insert boot disk. So at this point in time, if you have a USB with your operating system on it, you could do that. But because we have an optical disk, we'll just simply install your Windows operating system disk into the drive, reboot it, it'll come up, it'll read it off of that drive, and it will be able to start installing your system. Alright everybody, well I hope you enjoyed that video. If you like it, hit that like. If you don't, hit the dislike. Either way, leave me a comment and let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you learned something from it. And if you really like my videos, subscribe because it really will help me out. Okay, there'll be a couple links at the back, one for the motherboard, and the other one will just be at your choosing. Thanks for watching. Later.